I'm sorry?
Could you hold until the state party gets seated?
Yeah. Sure. Good evening, buenas noches. On behalf of the University of Texas at El Paso, welcome to the UTEP campus. And thank you for joining us to celebrate the life of UTEP President Emerita, Diana Natalicio. I'm Dr. Richard Pineda, Chair of the Department of Communication here at UTEP. As a faculty member hired by Dr. Natalicio nearly 19 years ago, it's truly an honor to be here with you this evening. The University of Texas at El Paso is thankful for the continuous support provided by the University of Texas system and our UT system colleagues. Please stand when your name is called. Please hold your applause until we've recognized each group. Former University of Texas System Board of Regent members James R. Huffines and Woody Hunt. Current Chancellor of the UT system, James B. Milliken, and former Chancellor, Dr. William Cunningham. Dr. Ronade S. Safady, Vice Chancellor for External Relations, Communications, and Advancement Services. Former President of the University of Texas at Arlington, James D. Spanolio. And Jim Wilson, Building and Property Support with the University of Texas System. Thank you for being here with us this evening. We are also pleased to welcome Permanent Representative of Bhutan to the United Nations, the Honorable Doma Shearing. United States Representative of the 16th Congressional District of the State of Texas and proud UTEP alumna, Congresswoman Emerita Escobar. State Senator representing Texas 29th District, Cesar Blanco. El Paso County Judge, the Honorable Ricardo Samaniego. And Mayor of Las Cruces, the Honorable Kenneth Miyagashima. We are also honored this evening to recognize very special friends of Dr. Natalicio and UTEP, former U.S. Consul General in Ciudad Juarez, Ray McGrath, and current U.S. Consul General in Ciudad Juarez, Eric Cohan. Le damos la bienvenida al Consul General de México en El Paso, el Honorable Mauricio Ibarra Ponce de León. Also with us this evening is President of the UTEP Alumni Association, Bernardino Olage. Representing UTEP students is Student Government Association President Austin Stevens. And among the 24,000 plus students enrolled in UTEP, we are pleased to welcome our students from Bhutan. We are honored that several other elected officials have joined us this evening. Thank you for making time to be with us. I would also like to welcome members of the UTEP family, including students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends. It means a lot that you've joined us here to celebrate Diana Natalicio. We begin tonight with a special letter from former President George W. Bush. President Bush writes, "Greetings to those gathered at Centennial Plaza on the campus of the University of Texas at El Paso for the celebration of life of President Emerita Dr. Diana Natalicio. Dr. Diana Natalicio was a groundbreaking woman and a remarkable leader. In 1988, she was named the first female president of UTEP. During her 31-year tenure, she worked hard to create a student population that reflected the demographics of the region. Today, nearly half of the graduates of UTEP are the first in their families to attend college. Diana was determined to make UTEP not only accessible, but also an excellent institution of higher learning. By recognizing this bold vision, she has left an indelible mark on this university for generations to come. I'm grateful for her contributions to El Paso, Texas, and our nation. She touched a lot of lives and will be sorely missed. Laura and I send our deepest condolences to Diana's family, and we thank all of you who are here today to honor her life and legacy. We send our best wishes for a meaningful evening. May God bless you. Signed, President George W. Bush." I also would like to share with everyone that the City of El Paso declared Sunday, October 24th, 2021, Dr. Diana Natalicio Day in El Paso. We extend our utmost gratitude to Mayor Oscar Leeser and the El Paso City Council for honoring Dr. Natalicio's significant impact in such a special way. I met Diana Natalicio when I was an 11-year-old nerd walking around the UTEP library. I was fascinated by libraries. I was fascinated by the campus that was 6 blocks from the home that I grew up in, and I loved the idea that I could explore freely. One day, I ran into Dr. Natalicio as she was coming out of a meeting in the library. She wanted to know who I was and what I was doing in her library. We talked. She was excited to tell me the opportunities that existed at UTEP. And a few short years later, when I was a graduate student at UTEP earning my master's, she reminded me of that meeting. Flash forward to 19 years ago when she hired me as a faculty member and the meeting that we had on my campus visit. It was in that time that I knew that I wanted to be part of the UTEP family. She recognized my desire to want to be back in El Paso to make a difference, and she played that to the hilt. And that's exactly who she was. She knew what every single one of us that are part of this institution and connected to this institution mean to UTEP and El Paso, and she knew exactly how to draw from us the best that we could do for the people around us. For that opportunity, I will always be grateful to Dr. Natalicio. In accordance with Dr. Natalicio's wishes, we have planned this evening not to mourn the loss of this impactful, visionary leader, but as a time to celebrate her life and all that she achieved in her 82 years. The opening pieces you heard on the harp were performed by UTEP senior music performance major Corey Tamez. In addition to one more special musical performance later in the program, you will hear from several friends, colleagues, and family members who will share their thoughts and some of their fondest memories of Diana Natalicio. Our first speaker this evening is Dr. Heather Wilson. Confirmed by the University of Texas System Regents as the 11th president of the University of Texas at El Paso, in 2019, Dr. Wilson continues the institution's commitment to increasing access to excellent higher education. Please join me in welcoming UTEP President Dr. Heather Wilson to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Pineda. Buenas tardes y gracias por estar con nosotros esta noche, mientras recordamos a la doctora Diana Natalicio. Tonight, we celebrate Dr. Diana Natalicio's life with the people who loved her, who worked with her, who were mentored by her, touched by her, inspired by her. A life based on the certainty that education is the gateway to opportunity for those willing to work for it. Not just for the wealthy and privileged, but for all. Others will share tonight more about Dr. Natalicio as a friend, a colleague, a baseball fan. This is what I know. Dr. Natalicio was a leader of great conviction. She led a team of people who built a university that defines inclusive excellence for Texas and for the nation. We continue to build on that foundation today. At several times in her life, Diana declined to have a building named for her. She wasn't about buildings or short-lived initiatives that sizzle and don't ultimately satisfy. She was about access and excellence in higher education through lasting research-based systemic change, particularly for those historically underserved by higher education. That is why I am pleased to announce today that the Chancellor and the University of Texas System has approved the establishment of the Diana Natalicio Institute for Hispanic Student Success at UTEP. This institute will continue Dr. Natalicio's work. The Natalicio Institute will produce research on what works to increase student success. It will develop leaders for America's Hispanic-serving universities and serve as a national resource for inclusive excellence. We look forward to sharing more about this major new institute in the coming months. The best thing we can do to remember Dr. Natalicio is to do the work, to build on the strong foundation established here in the Paso del Norte. It is now my pleasure to introduce the leader of our University of Texas system, who supported Diana and her work and continues to support this wonderful university. Please join me in welcoming Chancellor James B. Milliken.
Thank you, President Wilson. And thank you for the idea and the commitment to honor Diana in this way with this new institute. Having known her for a long time and worked with her and been inspired by her, I know this would mean an enormous amount to her. And I want to tell my friends who are in the audience, James Huffines, Woody Hunt, Bill Cunningham, members of the Chancellor's Council, that we are going to provide the first check for the fund to support the Institute, and I thank you for your support. So, there are many ways to measure the impact of a life, and they are often insufficient. This is especially true of someone who lived a life with the impact that Diana Natalicio had. There are, of course, many of the usual ways to quantify a university leader's impact, and one as successful as Diana. The growth in access and enrollment at UTEP, its impressive research growth, the economic impact on the region of this vital campus. But I'm convinced that Diana's most enduring legacy, and the one that would mean the most to her, will be in the hearts and minds not only of the students, faculty, staff, and community members she impacted, and there are thousands and thousands of those, but it will live on and impact the success of generations of students still to come. The ramifications of discoveries yet to be made and the continued vitality of this broader community. Like the golden poppies that climb the slopes of the Franklin Mountains each spring, Diana's special gift will be perennial, and it will continue to grow all across this region for many decades to come. As difficult as it is to capture in words the beauty of a field of spring blossoms, it is every bit as hard to express in a few words the indelible legacy of a lifetime of extraordinary service. But we can and we should try to do that. Diana believed that talent is everywhere. She recognized that the opportunity to develop those talents is not equally distributed. For more than 30 years, she worked to change that, to create a university that served and reflected its community and one that uplifted it. And in so doing, she brought UTEP to new heights. Her impact was profound. Taking the helm of our second oldest institution, she built UTEP into a major research university in the top 5% of all universities nationally. She not only increased enrollment, but she also made the university a true reflection of and resource to its community. She never doubted that a public university should and could be both accessible and excellent. In fact, she showed that an open, vibrant university can create excellence. And she knew that El Paso isn't a remote corner of a big state. It's an international crossroads of culture, a dynamic center of human ingenuity and success in its own right. My admiration for Diana runs deep. She is the one person at the UT system I knew before I arrived as chancellor. There isn't a person in higher education in the country who didn't know and understand our debt to Diana. Those of us who recognize the power of higher education to change the trajectory of individual lives and communities know how deeply Diana believed this and how it guided her every day. In every aspect of her work, that was at the core. That's why she was so widely respected across the country in higher education as a scholar, a leader, a mentor, and to many, a friend. Her dedication to her students, her smiling face and warm handshake at commencements, her support for scholars and leaders, her advice and counsel, including to me. This all reflected the very best of UTEP, our university system, and the state of Texas. We'll never have another like her, but we will carry her with us. We can be guided by her example, and we can continue to nurture the seeds she planted. Watch them bloom, help them grow. I'll miss Diana, but I'm so thankful I knew her, and so thankful that she made such an impact on so many. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor Milliken. Our next speaker is Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, who represents the Texas 16th Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives.
Thank you, Dr. Pineda, and good evening, everyone. It is such a privilege and honor to be together, our UTEP family, on a beautiful October evening, gathered together to celebrate an extraordinary life. You know, I have a multifaceted relationship with Dr. Natalicio, and I consider myself very lucky for that. I was a student here at UTEP. I'm a proud alum of UTEP, and I was a student here when she was president. I also taught here in the English department for a decade before I began my journey in public service and had the opportunity to work for her. So she was my boss. After years of being a student here, I was employed by her. And then when I served in county government, I had the privilege of collaborating with her as two leaders working to build a new economy for our community that was rooted in the brilliance of this institution, of UTEP. And in those later years where she and I got to work together as colleagues, as partners, as collaborators, as paseñas, as fronterizas, it really was an incredible experience for me because I got to see a side of her leadership that moved me and impressed me, and a side of leadership that I wish everyone had the opportunity to see. From my perspective, true leaders take a position that they are given and they use it to its fullest capacity. They use it in the most expansive and bold way possible in order to create substantial and lasting change. And that's who Dr. Natalicio was. That was the kind of leader that she was. We may not have always agreed, but one thing that I absolutely supported was her vision that access and excellence were not mutually exclusive, and that we could and should demand both for our great community. I also really admired her inclusiveness of Ciudad Juarez, of Las Cruces, of the entire region. She saw us all as one place to be celebrated, to be uplifted. She made space for everyone, and it's also part of what makes a great leader. The incredible Centennial Plaza that we're sitting in, to me, as we were sitting here listening to that beautiful music, I was thinking, this is so symbolic of who she was. When I was a student here, when I was a teacher here, this was a parking lot. This was concrete. This was parking spaces. And she brought it back to life. Her vision wasn't just about ensuring that she uplifted our students and gave them a path for the future, but she knew that their sense of place was important as well. And the restoration of this beautiful, magnificent arroyo, all of the native plants and trees that honor who we are, honor the border, honor our place, our location. There's so much about her to celebrate. There's so much about her to honor, and there's so much about her to be grateful for. But most importantly, there's so much about her to emulate. When we are given the opportunity to impact people's lives, we have to do it to the greatest extent possible. That is the lesson of Dr. Natalicio. I had the privilege on the floor of the House chamber in the Capitol to offer a tribute to Dr. Natalicio, and I've had it printed and it was entered into the congressional record. And Bill, I would like to present you with this. It was my absolute privilege to be able to honor your sister on the floor of the House of Representatives. To everyone here tonight, I think that it is so important as we honor her legacy, that we recognize that there's a lesson in her life that we can live up to. May we all do that every day in her honor, not just for UTEP, but for our community and for one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Please welcome our next speaker, State Senator Cesar Blanco, who represents the Texas 29th District.
Good evening, everyone. It's such an honor to be here on campus. And thank you so much, Dr. Pineda, for your introduction. It's such a special thing to be here tonight to honor someone who is a friend, an icon, Dr. Diana Natalicio. She showed me, as I think she showed many of us here in El Paso, what it means to be a true advocate. And the Congresswoman said it accurately, to be a great leader for our community. And as a proud graduate of this wonderful institution, UTEP, and having worked closely with her in our state capitol, I was truly inspired by Dr. Natalicio's vision, both academically as well as professionally. She's just such a great person to learn from. Like many of us here, I grew up here in El Paso, graduated from UTEP. I remember that parking lot here, Congresswoman. And I've seen firsthand just how much UTEP success under Dr. Natalicio, her leadership has just positively impacted El Paso and the surrounding regions, Las Cruces and Juarez. She had that special ability to see the potential in all of us, to see the potential of others, no matter what their background was or what their social status was. She once told me that we were on a flight, a very, very windy, bumpy flight into El Paso that many of us have experienced. And she was telling me about how when she came to El Paso in the 1970s, and she thought that she would only stay and teach a year or so. But as we all know, she ended up giving her life to this institution and to our region, to our community, staying over 40 years because she knew how hard her students worked, and she knew where they came from, the adversity that they faced, And she knew that they could accomplish so much if they just had the resources, if they just had the opportunity. And I think this story of our conversation speaks exactly to who Dr. Natalicio was as a person. Throughout the course of her career, she fought against the status quo. She fought against stereotypes. She stood up for her students. She stood up for her students because she saw their potential, because she believed in them. She believed in a better future for them, just as they believed in a better future for themselves. And her uncompromised belief in the ability of others, that ability to achieve, is one that's going to inspire me, and I think many of us, for the rest of our lives. It's one thing to tell someone that they can succeed, but it's another to provide them with the resources that they need to do so. And Dr. Natalicio did both. She told us that yes, Latinos, the border community, that we can achieve excellence. And then she provided us with the access to affordable education, that access that we need to accomplish our goals and achieve our fullest potential. Many of us are here on this stage because of that vision, because of those opportunities as graduates of UTEP. And she broke glass ceilings for women. She broke barriers for Mexican Americans in our border region, and she proved to the world that border communities can also be leaders in academia. I'll always be grateful to Dr. Natalicio. And although she's no longer with us, we can still keep her legacy alive by continuing to fight for her vision, that vision of a quality college education, for breaking out of the status quo and believing in the success of our young people. And it's just so great to see so many of these young people sitting here tonight. Bill, your sister was a wonderful friend, just a great colleague, a fighter in the legislature for resources for our community. I had the privilege of speaking on the Senate floor to honor her, and many colleagues spoke about their experiences with her and the great work that she did for our community and for our institutions. So I had the opportunity, not only as a graduate of this institution, as a product of this institution, but in many ways, I think she was a mentor to me and a mentor to so many of us in this community. She's going to be dearly missed. We had a resolution, and you can see it to the bottom right of the stage here, that we dedicated to Dr. Natalicio. The El Paso delegation, our 5 state reps, as well as myself, requested that a flag was flown over the Capitol in her honor. And it's going to be displayed for the rest of the reception this evening, so you all can come home and take a look at it. But Bill, this is yours to take home, to keep, to remember that this state is very grateful, that our community is extremely grateful for all that Dr. Natalicio has done to provide opportunities for our community. She will live on in all our hearts forever. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Her Excellency Doma Shearing, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Bhutan to the United Nations.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Wilson, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the privilege of allowing me to make a few remarks at tonight's celebration of President Emerita Dr. Diana Natalicio. Dear friends, I can't resist it. Please do allow me to share that as I walked across Centennial Plaza earlier this evening, I was moved by the contours of UTEP's iconic architectural outlines. Of course, we all know that they owe their origins to Kathleen Worrell, the wife of the Dean of the Texas School of Mines and Metallurgy, and a 1914 edition of National Geographic. They are a near perfect reflection of traditional architecture in Bhutan. I am equally stirred by the heartwarming presence this evening of family, friends, and admirers of President Emerita, Dr. Natalicio. All of us are united this evening in our admiration and celebration of the life of a remarkable individual who touched all our lives and hearts. Dr. Natalicio's impact was deep, transformative, and transcended the borders of El Paso, the great state of Texas, the United States, right across the mighty Himalayas to my own country, Bhutan. At this moment, Sir Christopher Wren's epitaph at St. Paul's Cathedral comes to mind, which in Latin reads, "If you seek his monument, look about you." Indeed, these majestic structures, all of us gathered here this evening, we are all monuments to the achievements and far-reaching contributions of Dr. Natalicio to UTEP, to the El Paso community, to the cause of higher education. Dear friends, as Ambassador of Bhutan, it is my distinct honor to convey the heartfelt sympathies of His Majesty the King of Bhutan, Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuck, and Her Majesty the Queen, Ajit Pema Wangchuck, at this memorial in honor of an individual they have held in great esteem and affection. I also bring with me the fervent prayers of the Royal Government of Bhutan and the people of Bhutan. In Bhutan, we have a tradition of lighting butter lamps at private altars and monasteries when a loved one or notable individual passes. We believe that this tradition of offering light represents the banishment of darkness, the illumination symbolizing an awakening of consciousness, which is not unlike what Dr. Natalicio achieved through her commitment to access to quality higher education. While one butter lamp is adequate, we believe, to serve as a guide for the departed on their journey from one realm to the next, offering a number of 1,000 butter lamps is a mark of highest regard. I hope it may be of some comfort to family members and friends that on learning of Dr. Natalicio's passing, by command of His Majesty the King, representatives of the palace, the royal government, gathered with UTEP alum at Sept, one of Bhutan's most sacred and oldest monasteries, to offer 1,000 butter lamps for Dr. Natalicio. Friends, today the Bhutanese Lhagang, only a few hundred meters away, stands at Centennial Plaza as a symbol of the long-standing connection between UTEP and Bhutan. This shared architectural legacy is a source of tremendous pride in Bhutan, but its significance exceeds mere brick and mortar. It represents the friendship between the people of Bhutan and the people of the United States. It represents the affinity between the rich cultural landscapes of both Bhutan and the American Southwest, and to the multitude of miners that have walked through UTEP's gates. It will signify, in Dr. Natalicio's own words, the promise to support free inquiry and the unimpeded quest for knowledge and understanding. President Wilson, you have Bhutan's full support as you build further upon late President Natalicio's conviction. Dear friends, while we are here this evening to pay final respects to Dr. Natalicio, I know that the indelible mark she has left in Bhutan will always be cherished. Dr. Natalicio will continue to be remembered by all her friends and admirers in Bhutan with much love, affection, and appreciation. Thank you.
Please welcome to the podium Consul General of Mexico in El Paso, Mauricio Ibarra Ponce de Leon.
Good evening, muy buenas noches a todos, muy buenas tardes. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Heather Wilson for the invitation to this important memorial in order to say a few words in recognition of Dr. Diana Natalicio. It is an honor for me to be part of this stage committee with officials, family, and friends. Despite the heavy heart, I would like to highlight and recognize the positive impact that Dr. Natalicio's work hard for the city of El Paso, for UTEP, and especially for the Mexican community here. Dr. Natalicio was a visionary. From early on, she decided that UTEP should reflect not only the demographics of the city of El Paso and El Paso del Norte region, but also the dynamics between close binational border communities. La doctora Natalicio fue una visionaria, ya que desde un principio decidió que UTEP debería reflejar no únicamente la demografía de El Paso y la región Paso del Norte, pero también la dinámica entre dos cercanas comunidades fronterizas binacionales. With that in mind, she fought to create an inclusive, multicultural, and binational university that would open its doors to the neighboring community of Ciudad Juárez. Dr. Natalicio worked tirelessly to increase access to the Mexican and Mexican-American students with the commitment to further support them financially through the Student Assistance Program, or PASE, which allowed the Mexican students to pay for in-state tuition. Con esto en mente, la doctora Natalicio luchó para crear una universidad inclusiva, multicultural y binacional que abriera sus puertas a la comunidad vecina de Ciudad Juárez. La doctora Natalicio trabajó incansablemente para incrementar el acceso de estudiantes mexicanos y mexicoamericanos, con el compromiso de ayudarlos también de manera financiera a través del programa de asistencia estudiantil, por medio del cual les permite pagar una colegiatura estatal. This type of unwavering support for minorities made UTEP one of the most important universities nationwide for the Hispanic community that currently comprises around 83% of the student body, including over 1,200 students that cross the border every day to attend this university. Este tipo de apoyo incondicional por las minorías hizo de UTEP una de las más importantes universidades a nivel nacional para la comunidad hispana, que actualmente asciende a cerca del 83% del estudiantado, incluyendo a más de 1,200 estudiantes que cruzan la frontera todos los días para asistir a esta importante universidad. I would like to highlight that starting in 2010 and until today, Dr. Natalicio supported the signature of an MOU with the government of Mexico to establish the IMEBECAS program at UTEP, through which the government of Mexico aims to facilitate the academic and professional development of Mexicans living in the U.S. in order for them to better adapt and contribute to their communities. During Dr. Natalicio's tenure, 94 students benefited from the IMEBECAS scholarship. Also, I have to underscore that Dr. Natalicio promoted the signature of collaboration agreements with several universities in Mexico with the objective of making education a true motor for social mobility between Mexico and the US and a true equalizer between border communities. For all these reasons, I am proud to say that Dr. Natalicio received from the Mexican government the Mexican Order of the Aztec Eagle, o la Orden Mexicana del Águila Azteca, which is the highest distinction Mexico awards to foreigners for their work in favor of Mexico and its people. Through this award, the Mexican government recognized the spirit and dedication of someone who truly embraced the bilingual and binational characteristics of the communities of El Paso and Ciudad Juárez. Finally, I would like to recognize that as Dr. Natalicio promoted inclusion and integration policies, she became a true source of inspiration for our youth, especially in times when discrimination, fear, and hate speeches started to emerge. Therefore, I am convinced that we all have to thank Dr. Natalicio for building bridges between our sister cities and their communities, and most importantly, between our two countries. Finalmente, quiero reconocer que al promover la doctora Natalicio políticas de unidad e inclusión, se convirtió en una verdadera fuente de inspiración para nuestra juventud, especialmente en momentos en que la discriminación, el miedo y el discurso del odio empezaron a surgir. Por lo tanto, estoy convencido de que todos tenemos que agradecer a la doctora Natalicio por construir puentes entre estas dos ciudades hermanas y sus comunidades, y más importante, entre nuestros dos países. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Consul. Please welcome our next speaker, President of Washington, D.C.-based research and policy organization Excelencia en Education, Sarita Brown.
It is good to be together and to celebrate the life of Diana Natalicio. When I received the phone call of her passing, I, like all of you, immediately flashed through every memory I could conjure up of how she had touched my life and what it is that she'd inspired me to do as I go forward. I had the privilege of knowing about Diana Natalicio at a very early stage in my career. I started off in the Office of Graduate Studies at the University of Texas at Austin, and I was an advocate for access and equity. And I was taken aback by the fierceness of the battle to be able to establish programs, doctoral programs in particular. I learned what it took to do that, and that even though you could look at a state and look at a population and say you want to distribute opportunity, the structure of doing that wasn't quite so easy. And the way I learned a lot about how it all worked was through the University of Texas at El Paso, because I would see some of the correspondence that came from UTEP about doctoral programs and about why they should be here, what disciplines they should be in, and how this community, this area, deserved the opportunity to have the strength of doctoral programs. And the way it was done is through a relationship between a sister program at UT Austin and UTEP. That stayed with me as it related to how do we deal with this idea of the role of higher education and how it serves a population. When I finally met Dr. Natalicio, of course it was an honor, and to hear her talk about it clearly, with pride, about what this community is built of, what it can do, what it is doing, what it will do. And it was also great fun that is being invoked by the distribution of these baseball cards, because that was what she was giving out. This was in the 1990s, and that's what she gave you. She gave you a baseball business card. And I was thinking, this is an amazing person, an amazing leader to do that kind of thing. And it achieved her purpose, which is that she stayed with you. You wanted to know who she was. You wanted to know what this was about. And it also made you very curious about this community that she wanted to talk to you about. And as the years have gone by, watching her put UTEP on a national stage and to do it with authenticity, to talk about this community, Paseo del Norte, to do it with pride, with clarity about what this community is built of, the possibilities of moving fluidly across cultures, across countries, and to do it in her adopted home. Now, when you choose a home, there's a strength to that she carried with her in everything she did. She was proud of El Paso. She was proud of the role that she got to play, which is to be the major booster of everybody who lived here, and to make sure that this community got the very best. Her vision for UTEP was to make this the best of the academy, to make it a mighty institution that engaged this community, and in so doing, lit up higher education to bring truth and meaning to what excellence and equity looks like, and to do it with authenticity. She has inspired many people who need courage to do the things that are required to make good things happen for more people in this country. The other part about Diana that I miss and will miss is her lovely sense of humor and her unflappable ability to start a day very early, bun intact, sensible shoes, and to go through the day and charm people, make her point, be gracious and kind. It's a leadership style that you don't see a lot of. It's a leadership style that produced greatness. It's a leadership style on my very best days. I try to emulate it. I don't know, it'll be quite a hard one to follow. But it is something that when you experienced it, when you witnessed it, and when you see what it achieved, you know it must be emulated. You know it must be guarded and held up. One of the fun stories, I already mentioned it to Bill, was when Diana came to Washington, D.C., and it was quite the combo of activities. We at Excelencia in Education were holding a national event, and she came, she did a wonderful speech to a standing room audience, and then we got her into a cab to get through rush hour traffic to make it over to the Hispanic Heritage Foundation that was going to be honoring her with an award, which they did, and they broadcast. And at the end of the day, there was a text message from a friend of mine, and it had her and Justice Sotomayor with brindes, and that was the end of her day, and then a little bit later, we were able to say goodnight. That kind of energy, that kind of representation of what El Paso is made of, and what this university does and will do. It's been said many times already this evening. We are all so extraordinarily lucky to know her, to have known her, and we will honor her by building on the strength of her love for this community, for this institution, and for what it is that we build when we work together. Her spirit is strong this evening. What I tell my daughter, when people love pass, they go to live in your heart. All of us who have known Diana Natalicio can find her there. And then with that strength, we honor her legacy by keeping this university strong, by serving this community, and by raising up the the fact that you do build strength with the talent that you find. That is what the Academy does for a community, and that is what we are capable of doing together to honor Diana Natalicio.
Our next speaker is one of Diana Natalicio's friends since childhood, who traveled from St. Louis to be here this evening, Miss Sharon Croissant.
That is one tough act to follow. I applaud you. Good evening. I'm Sharon Croissant, and I'm here today to celebrate and honor Diana Natalicio, who I think of as my BFF, my best friend forever. I remember meeting Diana, along with Brother Bill and her mother, on our first day as we were registering for kindergarten at Warner School in St. Louis, Missouri. Together, we progressed through the St. Louis public schools until we finished high school. We were children of the 50s, that wonderful time when most of our friends were in stable two-parent homes with non-working moms. Our neighborhoods were safe, and our parents were friends. Diana and I participated in brownies, Girl Scouts, church confirmation classes, and piano lessons. Her mom taught us tap dancing, or tried to. Her dad drove the Brownie troop on a field trip. The Brownies rode standing up in the back of his milk truck. That wouldn't happen in 2021. In fourth grade, Diana and our classmate Emmeline represented Warner School on a radio, remember that program, called Quiz Down. They were chosen because they were the smartest in our class. And then there was the day in fourth grade when Diana and I were called into the principal's office. That story will remain with me for another day. Diana's and my friendship continued through Cleveland High School. Although we ran in different circles, we remained good friends. In our senior class, Diana was not voted the most intelligent girl. That was Emmeline. But Diana was voted the girl most likely to succeed. I think our classmates got that one right. College was a different experience for Diana and me. We were both first-generation college students, and we both went to universities in St. Louis, and we both lived at home. My mother worked at Washington U, and thereby I received free tuition, and I could have a lovely campus life. Diana went to St. Louis U and worked to supplement her scholarships. She tutored in Spanish, taught Russian in summer school, and worked as a switchboard operator. But together we made time for an occasional Cardinals game and a beer or two. Diana and I were off on different paths after graduation. Diana went to Brazil on a Fulbright scholarship. I knew of nobody who'd ever won a Fulbright. Then she went on to a PhD and a career in higher education. I went on a more traditional route for women in the 1960s: marriage, motherhood, careers in teaching, and the human resources field. While Diana was developing a Sesame Street-like program for Spanish-speaking children, I was a den mother and school and community volunteer. Both of us were happy, and all this occurred before she wore her hair in the bun. It seems like we'd have little in common, but we communicated regularly, usually with long phone conversations. Our topics included politics, world events, baseball, classmate gossip, where Diana had been and what she'd done and who she met. She was never braggy, but she was always willing to share and to give us her opinion. In our 50s, we began trips with the Werner girls. 5 or 6 of us would meet up in places like Chicago or Austin or Jackson Hole or El Paso, and of course in St. Louis, and we had wonderful times together. Then at Christmas of 2012, I received the letter about going with the UTEP Alumni Association to see the opera in Bhutan. My quick reply was, "You bet." It was truly the trip of a lifetime. I met so many of the wonderful alums and staff and had the pleasure of seeing Diana interact with the students, the faculty, the staff, and the alums. At the opera, I noticed that Diana was seated next to the Queen of Bhutan. I was next to a handsome Frenchman. We both had a wonderful time. Without the help of my new UTEP friends, I would never have made it up Tiger's Nest. Diana was nice enough to include me in the festivities surrounding her St. Louis University commencement speech and the bestowing of her honorary degree. For me, it was an awesome experience to hear firsthand her inspirational message to the graduates. Our last time together was in St. Louis to celebrate our 80th birthday. My birthday is August 22nd. I'm 3 days older than Diana. I hosted a luncheon for my birthday, and the guests were my elementary, high school, and college friends. Diana and I spent the night at a downtown hotel, enjoyed a beer or two, and capped off the night with the Cardinals game. It was a perfect birthday. The next day, we toured our old elementary school, and then on her birthday, there was another Cardinals game. Cardinals won both games, yay. It was a fun weekend, and we had that gift of time together. But I did not realize that the forever part of BFF would only last 77 years. My parting wish to you, her beloved El Paso community, and that you too may have a best friend forever like Diana in your life. She will always have a special place in my heart. And I am wearing her Brownie and Girl Scout pin, which Bill found for me last night. Thank you. I am deeply honored to participate in this memorial service, and go Miners!
Please welcome our next speaker, former Senior Executive Vice President of UTEP, Dr. Howard Dotto.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, President Wilson. It's truly an honor to be here this evening and to offer some remarks about my dear friend and colleague, Diana Natalicio. Shortly after Diana Natalicio was named UTEP president, my wife, Marcia, and I attended a reception at Hoover House. Following the event, we gave Dr. Natalicio's mother a ride home. Beaming with pride, her mother told us when Diana was a very young child, she was given a tiny toy piano. As she described it, Diana would play that little piano for hours and would not stop until she proudly declared that she got it perfect. The story put quite a smile on her face as we imagined Diana's childhood quest for perfection. It was also very revealing, for it established that from the time she was a small child, Diana would do whatever it would take to get things right. That's a drive and a work ethic that characterized her entire life and professional career. Everyone who knew her understood that she was tenacious and intensely focused on her vision to provide all students from the El Paso region access to high-quality undergraduate and graduate programs. Likewise, most everyone on campus knew of her high expectations for faculty, staff, and students. We understood that she was on a mission to help students achieve their dreams and aspirations and make the world a better place through higher education. And we fully understood that we had to get it right. Diana didn't strive for perfection in petty, hostile, or condescending ways. On the contrary, she was extremely optimistic and imposed high standards on herself and others because she had confidence in our potential to reach our goals. She anticipated that UTEP's success would not be achieved by imitating other universities, chasing empty higher education status symbols, or adopting unproven and often costly academic fads. Instead, she knew that UTEP's success would be achieved by embracing our unique identity, supporting our talented faculty, and drawing strength from the people living in the U.S.-Mexico borderlands region. There were countless weekends and evenings when Diana and I and many other faculty and staff members from across campus would work for hours on reports and presentations, often discussing the best ways to express an idea, oftentimes quibbling over a sentence or a single word. It could be stressful, but we knew that Diana's persistence and intensity wasn't driven by an inflated ego or a quest for personal accolades. Rather, she understood that there were people and organizations who were uncomfortable with the changes she was promoting and the progress that we were making. In fact, they were often vocal in their objections to Diana's claim that a university can provide relatively open access and at the same time maintain an impressive, high-quality research portfolio. As she once told me, "Howard, we have to be extremely careful. There are many people who expect us to fail. And in fact, they sometimes actively search for evidence that we are second rate. But I love being the underdog. Let's punch above our weight and make the naysayers struggle with the dissonance caused by their false beliefs and our successes." Evidence of Diana's faith in people and her optimism that they could achieve great things when they were given a chance was found in many places. Wherever she went, people would stop Diana and give her a hug, often taking a selfie, and sometimes tearfully telling her how she and UTEP changed their lives. It happened all the time in El Paso. But it also happened at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, on the streets of New York City, at restaurants in Austin, and many other cities across the country. People gravitated to her to express their love and deep appreciation for all that she had done. After Diana retired, she continued to advocate for students, especially those who dreamed of going to college but thought that it could never happen. In 2020, when everyone was forced to curtail their travels, she continued to speak to professional groups and higher education leaders advocating for access and excellence in public education. Coping with the tragedies and the months of isolation imposed by COVID, Diana and I frequently exchanged emails and texts that included personal commentary on the state of politics and other contemporary social issues. As time passed, however, our discussions progressively shifted more and more to baseball. There were evenings when we would watch ball games together via text messaging, complete with ballpark food and pitch-by-pitch analyses. Only 8 days before her passing, we had our final exchange in which Diana wrote, "I've had quite an eventful summer health-wise, and hope the excitement has abated. Watching Major League Baseball made it all tolerable." Diana, thank you for giving us so many opportunities to serve this wonderful university. But most of all, thank you for being my friend for over 40 years. You're an extraordinary woman. Thank you.
Please welcome to the podium our next speaker, retired Executive Director of Human Resources at El Paso Independent School District and longtime UTEP supporter, Lillian Crouch.
Good evening. I'm honored to be here tonight to talk about my dear friend, Diana Natalicio, and how she inspired my late husband, Jim Crouch, and myself to become longtime UTEP supporters. I met Diana when we first came to El Paso and my husband was transferred and stationed at Fort Bliss. And over the years, we saw firsthand how Diana's passion to help students succeed transformed UTEP from a small university, a stone's throw away from Texas-Mexico border, to a national, recognized research institution. Yet despite all her accomplishments and well-earned accolades, Diana was always humble enough to say that the work she had done would not have been possible without help from alumni, friends, and supporters of the university. Diana recognized that donors play an important role in providing students a rich educational experience by investing in UTEP's academic and research programs, scholarships, infrastructure, and so much more. Thanks to Diana, UTEP's culture of giving greatly impacted the lives of UTEP students and made it possible for them to reach their full potential. I believe in the idea that for those to whom much is given, much is required. And giving back to the community was always a priority for Jim and myself. Diana showed us that the best way to give back was to invest in our community's future through the university. As UTEP grads, we also saw this as a wonderful opportunity to stay engaged with our alma mater. Diana understood that our time and real-world experience was just as valuable as our monetary contributions. We were invited to join the UTEP Development Board, contribute to UTEP's Centennial campaign, and learn how our contributions made a difference in student lives at the annual UTEP Scholarship Luncheon. At Diana's invitation, James and I became members of the University of Texas System's Chancellor's Council, and I also served as chairperson of UTEP Matrix Society. In 1988, we created the Frederick James Crouch Memorial Scholarship Fund in memory of our son, Frederick, who passed away in 1985. After my husband died 3 years ago, we established the James and Lillian Crouch Endowed Scholarship. These endowments will fund scholarships for future generations of deserving minors. Over the past 30 years, we watched as UTEP expanded its programs, increased its student body, and rose in national prominence. We were energized by Diana's huge aspirations for UTEP. As the campus grew under her leadership, so did our motivation to support the university. As a military wife, I was especially proud of UTEP's efforts to support our soldiers at Fort Bliss. And during Diana's tenure, UTEP made it possible for military affiliate students and their families to continue their education through the development of online coursework. The university also launched UTEP's Military Student Success Center to help active service members, veterans, and their families navigate the higher education process. And today, Diana's portrait hangs on the wall of the Centennial Banquet and Conference Center at Biggs Army Airfield in recognition of her outstanding contributions to the post, its soldiers, and its mission. Diana's legacy also lives on in the teachers at the El Paso Independent School District, where I was an administrator for 37 years. And many of these educators are UTEP grads, and they are well qualified to meet the academic needs of children in our community. Even in her retirement, Diana was always eager to help students. About a month ago, I reached out to her on behalf of my granddaughter, an MBA student at Diana's alma mater, the University of Texas at Austin, who wanted to interview her for a class project. And Diana graciously agreed to be interviewed. Unfortunately, my granddaughter did not get the chance to speak with her. Diana's legacy has set the foundation for UTEP to grow and reach new heights that even she could not have imagined. Through hard work, dedication, and with our continued support, UTEP students will continue to achieve their biggest dreams. Thank you, Diana, for setting the bar so high.
This evening, we have a special performance by Zul Bailey, UTEP music faculty member and Grammy Award-winning cellist, who will perform 3 pieces about dreams. Thank you, Professor Bailey. Please welcome our next speaker, UTEP Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Gary Edens.
Good evening. I probably have heard Dr. Natalicio speak thousands of times, hundreds probably from behind this very podium. And if you heard her speak, she often would talk about how when she was growing up and when she first became president, she was fearful of speaking in public. She didn't like it. And she always talked about how she actually had to write on a card, "Good evening, my name is Dr. Diana Natalicio." And she shared that story with students who were often also not big on public speaking. I'm not big on public speaking. And so when I asked Dr. Natalicio, well, how did you get through it? How did you get so good at it? She says, Gary, I always talked about things I love. I always talk about UTEP, I always talk about students, I always talk about education, and I always talk about El Paso. And when you talk from the heart and you talk about things you love, it comes out a lot easier. Well, tonight I'm going to talk about someone I love and someone I loved working for. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I first met Dr. Diana Natalicio when I stepped onto this campus as a scared, confused, very skinny freshman. Some things change in 35 years. I'll let you decide which ones changed. We were seated next to each other at a dinner and started up a conversation. She asked about my interests, my family, my goals. But there was one question she asked that has stayed with me until this day. What are you most passionate about? That simple exchange would help mold my involvement on campus as a student and become a guiding factor throughout my life. Dr. Natalicio really made me think about what I wanted to do and how I would challenge myself to achieve it. And eventually that thought-provoking lesson turned into my life's work. I realized higher education and student involvement was my passion, and I went on to earn my bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degree, all from UTEP. I would remain a minor and join the staff in a variety of positions, including director of several offices, dean of students, and a member of the senior leadership team. With each role, I gained a deeper understanding about leadership from Dr. Natalicio. One event in particular comes to mind. In the lead up to UTEP Centennial celebration in 2014, Dr. Natalicio wanted to amplify UTEP's commitment to the region and our mission of access and excellence. She wanted every student in El Paso, from kindergarten to high school, to be touched by UTEP in some meaningful manner. A big challenge made even more challenging by her desire to have it all happen during one single school day. The plan was to have 1,200 UTEP volunteers, many of whom are sitting in this audience tonight, visit every school in the region, and for each student to receive a Centennial gift. That's 180,000 students at 260 schools across 12 school districts. Dr. Natalicio always dreamed big. On the day of the event, Dr. Natalicio wanted to directly interact with as many students as possible. I was able to serve as her chauffeur. At an elementary school, they held a one-person parade with Dr. Natalicio as the grand marshal. She walked through the halls as students cheered and clapped and held up UTEP birthday signs. At a middle school, she took part in a pep rally and gave a speech about the importance of education. And at a high school, Dr. Natalicio was the guest of honor as the UTEP team presented a full-on theatrical experience designed to motivate students to go to college. Throughout the day, she had a huge smile on her face, and as I dropped her off at the Hoover House, she turned to me and said in her trademark, understated, yet deeply thoughtful way, "Today was a special day." There were many such days thanks to Dr. Natalicio's vision, mentoring, and leadership. Throughout the nation, there are powerful women, strong leaders, visionary collaborators, thoughtful decision makers, and iconic figures. Dr. Natalicio was all those in one. Dr. Natalicio had an unwavering belief in the potential of everyone she met. She knew that UTEP could lead the way in developing and enriching the lives of so many who for so long had not had the opportunity to realize their full potential. And she knew education would be the great equalizer. During this time of reflection, I look back fondly on all the incredible opportunities that UTEP has provided me, that Dr. Natalicio provided me. Opportunities which, under her presidential leadership, were made available to all students with the desire to think big, work hard, and do good. It's therefore so fitting that written in binary code on the Mighty Man's pickaxe sculpture, which greets everyone on the UTEP campus, is an inspirational quote by Dr. Natalicio. It reads, "Believe in yourself and in your dreams. Believe in UTEP and its aspirations. Share the dream." As I slowly accept the deep loss of my greatest mentor, I am reminded of her question to me all those years ago, "What are you most passionate about?" And I proudly go back to work even more determined to create special days for our university. Dr. Natalicio believed in me. She believed in all UTEP students, and she believed in El Paso. Let's continue her work, believe in the power of education, dream big, and make her proud. Thank you.
Our final speaker of the evening is Dr. Natalicio's brother, Bill Sidhoff. Please welcome him to the podium.
Thank you very much. President Wilson, UTEP students, staff, alumni, ladies and gentlemen, it really is an honor to join you today to celebrate the amazing life of my sister, Diana, who is much more than my sister. She was my best friend and biggest supporter in all my endeavors throughout my life. Let me first of all thank all of those involved in preparing for this event and the speakers before me who spoke fondly of Diana's life and accomplishments and who cherished the relationship they had with her. Speaking tonight is probably the toughest speech I've ever given and one I never wanted to do. As the unexpected loss of Diana has shaken me to my core, leaving me bewildered and experiencing an overwhelming sense of loss that words can't describe. But it is comforting to see all of you here tonight. That is a real testament to the love everyone had for her, and I know she had for you. Growing up in St. Louis, I was always the little brother, and I can tell you, she was one tough act to follow. All of her achievements made that even more difficult, beginning in grade school and continuing throughout her life. You talk about a role model. This one was what most people would only dream about having in their life. Of course, in our later years, I would always introduce myself, some of you probably remember, as her much younger brother that I'm sure she found annoying, but isn't that what little brothers are known to do? Be annoying? Despite that, Diana and I had an extremely close relationship throughout our lives, even though I lived in St. Louis and Diana was here in El Paso. This was particularly true in our retirement years when we had the chance to be together more often, whether traveling by train to the Copper Canyon or whale watching in Baja, Mexico. More recently, our major entertainment menu was watching the St. Louis Cardinals. She in El Paso, me in St. Louis, texting back and forth, just like you heard before, except he was a Dodger fan. We were Cardinal fans. You know, Diana's interest in baseball was well known, as has been mentioned tonight, with her Topps baseball card as her calling card. And I had the pleasure of seeing her throw out the first pitch of the Chihuahuas game here in El Paso. Diana and I, as kids, spent endless hours throwing a ball back and forth in our backyard, creating our own fun, as after all, this was well before TV was even invented. She said famously that the only thing that she would consider other than being president of UTEP was to be the commissioner of baseball. And I think she would have excelled at that. I think they could have used her, actually. In mentioning Diana throwing out the first pitch, it reminds me that I was extremely lucky to be able to enjoy many experiences with her. And she always wanted me to join her at significant events, many when she was receiving an award, affording the opportunity to meet at the White House or mingle with Supreme Court justices and other dignitaries. Likewise, when I received an award, despite her busy schedule, she would make it a point to travel to St. Louis or other places to join me for these enjoyable experiences. In conclusion, let me talk a little bit about El Paso and what it meant to Diana and to my family. While we grew up in St. Louis with our parents, Bill and Joe, not everyone knows that their parents moved to El Paso in 1972 from St. Louis, and at that time, I thought that was just a terrible idea. The idea of leaving all of your friends and acquaintances, I believe, was a big mistake, but it couldn't have been more wrong. Instead, they found the people of El Paso extremely friendly and welcoming, spending nearly 30 years of their retirement years enjoying the great weather, the beautiful skies, the food, and new friends they met over the years. Plus, they had the pleasure of seeing their daughter achieve incredible things that they were so proud to experience with her. To everyone in El Paso, I say thank you for embracing Diana and my family, and for all the love you extended to them. In mentioning friendly people, I would be remiss if I didn't mention some very special people in Diana's life and career. Although there were so many, it's hard to acknowledge all of them. But in the case of the few, they were almost like family to Diana and me, and particularly Luz Encanto, Diana's longtime assistant, who was with me tearfully as we hugged each other as Diana's life slipped away on September 24th. Thank you, Luz, for taking such good care of my sister for over 30 years. I love you so much. Also, let me acknowledge Richard Dotto, Liz Thurman, Estrella Escobar, and Beto Lopez, who contributed so much to my sister's life here in El Paso and became my friends as well. And finally, a sympathy card I just received, I think said it well. Those we love are always with us in the gifts that they have shared, their laughter, warmth, and wisdom, and the special ways that they cared. That was Diana through and through. Finally, a big thank you to current and former UTEP students. You were my sister's passion and driving force in her life's work, and what provided her the greatest satisfaction. Commencement that I attended many times brought her the greatest joy, recognizing the achievements of those walking across the stage as she proudly shook each of their hands. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us to honor my sister Diana. May she rest in peace. I love you, Diana. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers this evening for their thoughtful and joyful words and memories of Diana Natalicio, who meant something special to every one of us. As you leave this evening, we invite you to exit along Sun Bowl Drive, and you'll see that the M on the mountain has been lit in her honor. For one last time, in her honor, put your picks up, say it loud and proud so she can hear you. Go Miners!